Fox 35 News starts now with breaking news.
This is the first ever presidential mugshot. You're looking at the mugshot of former President Donald Trump. It was taken tonight in Fulton County, Georgia, after he turned himself in. He's facing 13 charges, including racketeering. We'll have more on that coming up in just a minute, but first, we're tracking the tropics. Good evening and welcome, everybody. I'm Luann Sorrell.
And I'm John Brown. The area we're watching tonight is south of the Gulf of Mexico right now, and Fox 35 storm said joins us this evening. So, Ian, give us a better idea of what to expect with this system that's not even really a system yet.
Yeah, it's not quite a system just yet, but it has everybody's attention, and it is expected to develop here in the coming days. Not just a possibility, it's likely that we're going to have it. And you see here, as of the 8 o'clock update by the National Hurricane Center, we now have a 70% chance that we are going to have a tropical system in the Gulf of Mexico going into next week. So just to kind of sum things up for you, it's going to be an area of spin that has been monitored, but as it moves northward, it's over favorable conditions, allowing it to develop. So a tropical depression is certainly on the board. Could we see stronger? We could, but there is a lot of uncertainty still there. So we'll be watching for impacts here in Florida by next Tuesday and Wednesday. That is when we are expecting it to move towards Florida. But into the late weekend, we have, as our Fox Mall shows, a collection of storms spinning about over the Yucatan, moving north and then into the Gulf of Mexico, which, as we know, this time of the year, the Gulf of Mexico is very warm, and that does allow for development. So once from there, this is what we are watching for. Could this develop into a impactful storm? It definitely looks like a possibility, and I'm going to have more on my thoughts and why we still have questions on where it's heading coming up.
Now back to that breaking news. A mugshot is one for the history books behind us. This is the first time a former president has been booked for a crime.
Donald Trump turned himself in tonight up in Georgia on 13 charges. The entire booking process took less than 30 minutes. Fox 35's Rebecca Castor has more on this historic night.
Thanks, Patrick. Also an update tonight. A man is now behind bars accused of trying to break into several homes around Lake Mary. Seminole County deputies say 23-year-old Jonah Mayo tried breaking into at least 3 homes back on the 18th. One of the victims managed to snap a picture of Mayo when he tried breaking into their home, and that is what deputies used to help identify him. Mayo now faces burglary charges.
Only on Fox 35, a special meeting was held tonight in Flagler County. Parents got the chance to speak one-on-one with the school superintendent after black students were singled out in assembly. Fox Famonti is joining us live from Bunnell Elementary tonight. So, Stephanie, what did those parents have to say?
Those parents tell me that they're giving the school one chance to make things right. Those parents, teachers, and the school superintendent all came together tonight to look at how we move forward from this. And the superintendent spoke about what to do moving forward, specifically about creating safe spaces for students and rebuilding that trust with parents. Some ideas that were brought up tonight were something like a mentorship program for students, but they're going to talk much more about this on Tuesday when they have another meeting. Reporting live in Bunnell, Stephanie Buffmonti, Fox 35 News.
Stephanie, thank you. Fox 35 News at 10 is just getting started tonight. Still ahead, a gator with some serious spidey senses. More of this wild video of a beast scaling a home.
And it's often said it's the little things that matter, right? We spoke to a body language expert today to give us her thoughts on how the Republican candidates did last night. Plus, Manny.
The off-duty Seminole County Sheriff's Office employee who shot the black bear won't face any charges. Coming up next, I'll go over why FWC says it's a case of self-defense.
Power line problem. People have been fighting for help. Now a fire raises the stakes, taking a family out of their home for months.
I can't help but think that it was completely avoidable.
So who's to blame?
I need to know that someone is going to take the steps to make it better, make it right, and keep people safe.
Fox 35 investigates Monday at 10.
When it comes to keeping people safe, we want you to depend on us, to trust us. We get the warning, we're first on, and we're last off. Depend on the Fox 35 Storm Team, built for Florida weather.
Go to fox35orlando.com/contest and enter now for your chance to win.
The tropics are heating up, and one system in particular has our eyes. We are monitoring a system in the Western Gulf, and that may become our next named storm.
Developing tonight, no charges for the off-duty Seminole County detective who shot and killed this mama bear in Sanford. FWC says the man shot in self-defense. Fox 35's Manny Martinez is joining us live from Sanford tonight. So, Manny, the report says the bear charged at this man and his dog.
Yes, Luann, good evening. Investigators say the man had even taken several precautions against bears, including an alert device that was given to him by FWC Bear Management. Ultimately, investigators say that it was a case of self-defense. Now, those two cubs were found this week, and they'll be taken care of until December, when they'll be released back into the wild. Live tonight in Sanford, Manny Martinez, Fox 35 News.
Thanks, Manny. From Fox 35 Mission Control, the Crew 7 astronauts are set to blast off in less than 6 hours. The scene right there, pretty good view right now. Look at the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket sitting on the launch pad. Now, this is truly an international crew. All 4 astronauts are from 4 different countries. Once they get to the International Space Station, they will be busy doing experiments there. And there will also be 2 important spacewalks. The liftoff is scheduled for 3:50 a.m. and you can watch it live on Good Day Orlando starting 5 minutes before the liftoff. And Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Ian Cassett joins us once again.
So, Ian, we could see possibly a tropical depression next week in the Gulf.
Yeah, that's right, Luann. It is looking likely that we will have at least a tropical depression here over the next 5 days or so, developing as it pushes northward. Now, this is what the satellite imagery looks like at this moment. You can see a couple of things. Well, this is what we have been watching. I know it kind of looks like a mess, but this is a low pressure system attempting to develop there in the Western Caribbean. But we also have this little spin. This is an upper level low pressure system that is helping to navigate this or guide this collection of storms northward. And with that, as it moves farther to the north, maybe to get its act together over the Western Caribbean, has a good chance of development. Now, I will say some models have this hugging and staying, in fact, over land, which would hamper or at least not make it as easy of a path to get into the Gulf. But regardless, chances look likely that we will at least still have a tropical depression into early next week, as soon as late this weekend as well, with that likely chance of development. So this is what you're going to be hearing a lot about over the next 5 days, because this is the first system to really be a true threat to the Gulf, or rather to Florida. We've already had Tropical Storm Harold that moved into southern Texas. Our Fox model has done a great job handling things here in the hurricane season. It is expecting this to make its way northward. So by early next week, Tuesday, this is what it could be. It would be still not looking too great, but a tropical system still looks likely as it turns northeasterly towards Florida. Most models indicate that it will be at least a low pressure system moving northward. The GFS model has not been too high on this system. It's been more of a mess. It has a difficult time getting to us. Good chances of rain and some windiness our way. So that is kind of like at a bare minimum, we're going to see this scenario. The European model has been a little bit more aggressive with this. As you can tell, the pressure line's a little more focused, heading towards Florida by the same time. So timing looks pretty good. Tuesday, Wednesday, that's what we're confident with. But how intense this will be, that is going to continue to be a question. But we should have more confidence as we get closer. The wind model, this is what the GFS shows. Again, still gusty winds, 20 to 30 mile per hour winds seem like a possibility. It's also favored a more southerly track, maybe down to South Florida, less of our northern Florida or northern areas, Gainesville to the north, not as likely. But you look at the European model and it has some stronger winds coming up the southwestern shores of Florida. So that is why we are paying very close attention to this system, as it does have potential. And this time of the year, you cannot possibly ignore a system into the Gulf of Mexico. Forecast rainfall, as GFS shows, it favoring higher rain totals to the south. This I expect to change as it comes together. A more focused system may bring more rain our way, but right for now, it seems it's going to stay to the south. All of this, though, is a reminder to review your emergency plan, be prepared, check your supplies, and stay informed. That third one, very important, because we may have changes very quickly here as we're nearing the peak of the hurricane season. Tomorrow morning, let's get to local weather. We'll have temperatures in the mid-70s. It'll be a quiet start to the day, great end to the week. It's going to be warm into the low 90s. A lot of sunshine, still with the same northeast wind. So if you live near the coast, a little bit cooler. Temperatures near 90 degrees, Daytona Beach, mid-90s to the west. but a dry day, and this pattern will likely continue into the weekend with a lot of sunshine, and that means good weather for football there tomorrow. And this weekend, limited rain chances. Our rain chances don't go up until next week, coming from the potential for that system. Those rain chances will turn very likely. John Luann?
All right, thanks, Ian. Well, coming up here on Fox 35 News, a whole new meaning to the word SWAT officer.
A man gets a pretty unique punishment for bad driving.
Well, I grew up in a household where being spanked was what happened if you did something wrong. So I just took it that way, and I bent over and he spanked me.
This video shows a deputy spanking the driver. What the sheriff's department is doing about this deputy's conduct.
Each member of the Fox 35 Storm Team is a hurricane expert. We've got the largest network of weather cameras anywhere in the region. We can see just about every neighborhood, so you can keep your family safe. You can depend on the Fox 35 Storm Team, built for Florida weather.
Time and Temperature is brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
The officer stepped out in front of me and put his hand on my hood and said, "Sir, can you get out of the vehicle for me?" I'm like, "Great." I thought he said, "Put your hands behind your back." So I put my hands behind my back, and he goes, "No, bend over." I was like,
All right, we've heard about police officers giving someone a slap on the wrist, but one deputy is caught on camera spanking a guy. All right, this happened just outside of Detroit. The 18-year-old driver was doing some stunts and speeding, kind of, messing up right there in the middle of the road, so he got pulled over, but he didn't expect this form of punishment. The driver even said the spanking was worse than a ticket because it embarrassed him in front of his friends, but the department is now looking into the officer's actions.
An only in Florida moment caught on camera. An alligator tries climbing up the side of a home. This happened in Fort Myers. That gator tried to scale the house a few times before sliding down and hitting its snout. Apparently, this neighborhood is known to have a lot of large reptiles. Last spring, a 12-foot alligator had to be dragged out of a house after causing $2,500 worth of damage.
In Volusia County, this monkey's still on the loose out there. There have been several sightings of it in Orange City over the past few days. Now, there are some concerns that the monkey, known as a rhesus macaque, could attack without warning, and they can also spread diseases to humans. They say if you do see it, keep your distance and call police or FWC.
Coming up next, analyzing the candidates. The first Republican presidential debate is now over, and tonight, a body language expert dives into their behavior.
And a local woman dealing with memory loss and trouble speaking after she was struck by lightning. Wait until you hear from her husband about how it all happened.
We are getting our first look at what Republican voters think after last night's debate.
And a new poll from the Washington Post, 538, and Ipsos shows that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and businessman Vivek Ramaswamy won the debate. 29% of Republican voters who watched the debate said DeSantis performed the best. Ramaswamy had 26% support. Former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley came in at 15%. And these early debates are so important because it's the first chance for voters to see most of them, so they have to perform well in order to stay in the race.
And sometimes it's the little things that matter most. Fox 35's Marlisa Goldsmith met with a body language expert to analyze the candidates.
And that was Marlisa Goldsmith reporting tonight. And coming up at 11, that body language expert gives us a deeper look at the interactions between Governor Ron DeSantis and former Vice President Mike Pence.
In Seminole County, we now know the name of the teenage boy who died after he was hit while riding his bike in Castleberry. Police say 17-year-old Xavier Garcia was struck by a car around 6:20 this morning while he was crossing Cimarron Boulevard near Sausalito Boulevard. They say he did not have any lights or reflectors on his bike, and he was not in the crosswalk. The driver stopped and is cooperating with investigators.
We are learning new details about a child abuse investigation that's taking place at the Pineapple Cove Academy in Palm Bay. 56-year-old Sharina Badu appeared for the first time in court today. This follows a report that a 16-month-old child suffered some scratches and bruises while in her care. According to that report, Badu is accused of pinching and smacking a child twice while putting him down for a nap.
Did you receive a copy of the report from Palm Bay Police Department?
Yes.
Parents we spoke with say it's unfortunate, but it will not stop them from taking their child to this daycare. They say they believe their kids are in good hands there.
We are getting a new look at the scaffolding that is being taken down in downtown Orlando. This new video shows the holes that are now left in the building where that scaffolding once stood. This saga has been going on for about 2 weeks now, when the city shut down a part of Orange Avenue because that scaffolding was leaning. Crews are working on getting the debris out of the street now. The company estimates it'll be another week before it is done dismantling that scaffolding.
Well, a woman from Orlando was finally able to leave the hospital after she was hit by lightning.
But she still can't speak, and she has memory loss. Fox 35's Marie Ettinger talked to her husband about the damage that bolt of lightning caused. Well, teachers in Florida can now register to get unlimited access to SeaWorld for free. It's part of the SeaWorld Florida Teacher Card program. It applies to any active state teacher who's certified to teach kindergarten through 12th grade. Teachers need to log in with their teaching ID to see if they're eligible. There's an option to add other parks for an extra fee and add guest tickets. The card is good through next September.
Still ahead, from the defensive line to the pit, how a former NFL player made the switch to NASCAR and the lesson he has for young people about their health.
And a teenager battles and beats a devastating cancer diagnosis. He was honored with his dream vacation.
I almost cried. Like, it's insane. Like, I never thought that I would be able to.
Where he and his family will get to travel thanks to a local nonprofit.
In the Fox 35 Sports Zone, a former star football player turned NASCAR pit crew member is focusing on heart health.
Yeah, his career change came from a heart condition. Fox 35 sports reporter Jessica Ely shares his mission. Tomorrow is the first Football Friday of the season on Good Day Orlando. We are live from DeLand High School beginning at 7 a.m. We will be looking ahead to tomorrow night's big game between the Bulldogs and the Mainland Buccaneers. You don't want to miss it.
All right, Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Ian Cassett joins us right now.
Ian, we're not liking what's behind you right there. It's red, it says 70%, and it looks like it's coming to Florida.
Yeah, that's right. Unfortunately for us here in Florida, if you were hoping to avoid anything tropical this year, those chances are going down quickly, as we do have a tropical wave that is being monitored, and chances are increasing, up to 70% chance that we could have a tropical depression in the Gulf of Mexico extending into next week. So that is what we are going to talk about here and what we are expecting. And the reason why we are paying very close attention to this is because the tropics have a lot of fuel right now. The Atlantic basin, including the Gulf of Mexico, upper 80s, near 90 degrees, the sea surface temperature. So that's going to be fuel for the storm, and anything that makes it into the Gulf, we have to watch closely. Our Fox model indicates that this system, or lack thereof for the time being, is going to continue moving northward. So this is Sunday, so it's still going to take some time. But as it moves northward off the Yucatan, it could become a tropical depression. And from there, given how much time it has until it gets to from there in the middle of the Gulf to Florida, may have enough time to increase even further. But that is the question, and why many models are all over the place on what we could see. GFS model, American model, has been on the lower end of things, showing more of a broad low pressure system moving across Florida, bringing rain and likely some gusty winds, but not a tropical system, or rather not a tropical storm like the European model was showing. It's been more aggressive and pretty consistent, showing that there is potential we could have a tropical storm by early next week approaching Florida. So with that, obviously, with a tropical storm, that could be a bit more impactful for us here in Florida. The GFS model shows the winds here going through Florida by Tuesday and Wednesday. When things would fall apart would probably be Tuesday. That's when we'll start to see those rain chances increasing, the winds increasing as well, but very broad here and likely not a tropical storm. The reason it's a little less, or at least not as likely with the GFS, is because of wind shear, and wind shear may end up disrupting this from developing and not as much time over the Atlantic. So the storm hasn't formed yet. That is important to note, but that tropical depression is still very much possible in the southern Gulf of Mexico, and that would be developed by early next week. Certainty wise, timing seems to be pretty good right now, but models still have to get a good handle on how this is going to develop and when it does move into the Gulf, how long is it going to stay over the open water? So continue to check in with us. We will provide more updates, and we're going to have a better idea of this as we get closer, especially by late this weekend. I think we'll have a really good idea of how things will play out. Looking at the GFS model for rainfall, even so here, it's not showing a ton of rainfall over Central Florida. It's been favoring farther and farther to the south, so that's a trend that we may have to watch for. Even if we do get a tropical storm, there's a possibility it stays to the south, but it does not have a tropical storm developing, so that's why it keeps it a little bit more broad and keeps the rain to the south pushed southward. So tomorrow morning, let's start things locally. We got some mid-70s for lows. We're gonna have a quiet start to your morning. We've had very tranquil weather here. It's been warm, but we haven't had much in the way of storm chances, and that will continue again tomorrow through this weekend. Temperatures will be climbing into the 90s. We'll continue with that breezy wind onshore out of the northeast. Highs will be in the upper 80s along the coast, 88 degrees in New Smyrna, 95 degrees in Leesburg. It will be very warm inland, and with lack of rain chances, you're not really going to get much relief from the heat. That northeast wind will continue all day long, and through the evening, still no rain chances. So also important for those that have football games here in Central Florida. Ideal forecast there. In your 7-day forecast, our rain chances will remain limited even through this weekend. It's not going to pick up until we get to next week, but it will be very warm this weekend, even a few degrees warmer than tomorrow. We'll have our best rain chances coming by Tuesday and Wednesday. That's when you should be on alert for that potential for impacts from tropical disturbance.
All right, Ian, thank you. Coming up next on Fox 35 News at 10, we are getting an inside look at what NASA is working on for its next deep space mission.
And coming up, all new at 11, what one pastor has to say about the person who stole a 5-ton air conditioning unit from his church in the heat of summer. All right, first of all, let's take a look at the Fox 35 Pump Patrol. Gas is $3.49 a gallon at the 7-Eleven on Orange Blossom Trail and Gore Street in Orlando. And you can compare gas prices by zip code. Just go to fox35orlando.com and click on the traffic page.
As wildfires devastate Maui, survivors sift through the ashes and struggle to rebuild. Now you can help. Join the Fox 35 Care Force and support the Red Cross. Just go to redcross.org/FoxForward and donate. Every dollar will help Hawaiian families recover from this disaster. Donate now and make a difference.
An 18-year-old gets his wish granted after beating cancer. In January, during Jude Smith's senior year, his parents took him to what they thought was just a regular doctor's appointment. But the results were not anything they imagined. He was diagnosed with stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma. After being told he would not graduate or go to prom, Jude went through chemo and radiation and then accomplished both of those milestones. Now he's packing his bags for his dream trip to Hawaii.
God gave me like a quick word, like right at the beginning of it all, and it's that life gives you hurdles, and hurdles are made to be jumped over.
The nonprofit called Nick's Wish surprised him and his family with this trip. Jude says this is not the end, and he is forever moving forward and jumping over even more hurdles.
All right, we're getting an inside look at a new project at NASA. They're tackling deep space exploration in their Jet Propulsion Lab out in Los Angeles. And scientists there are busy working on the Aurora Clipper, which is a deep space explorer. When it goes up into space, it's going to orbit Jupiter and study the building blocks necessary for life way out in space.
We are trying to explore all kinds of places in our solar system and beyond that might have life. Europa is a really interesting example of that. It's a moon of Jupiter that has an icy shell, but beneath that we think it has a global ocean. So it's an ocean world like the Earth, but it's a moon of Jupiter. Who would have thought? So Europa Clipper is all about exploring that moon and really trying to understand that ocean and whether it might be a habitable environment.
Okay, the Clipper is expected to launch in October of next year, and it's not going to get to Jupiter until 2030. It's a long trip.
We are tracking a lot of stories coming up for you at 11.
And Fox things off. Patrick.
The bloody arrest of a Daytona Beach man is getting a lot of attention on social media. Some argue officers used excessive force, but police say it was justified. We'll show you more of this body camera video in just a few minutes.
After an assembly singling out black students here at Bunnell Elementary School, parents and the school are meeting together to look at solutions moving forward. I'll bring you to that meeting coming up at 11.
We are watching for the potential for a tropical system into the Gulf of Mexico as into early next week. What impacts it could bring to us here in Florida coming up.
Fox 35 News is brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.